Okay, now we're going to talk about the top 10 tips for creating memorable characters. Now, I know I just said don't tell everybody's dirt. Don't do this, don't do that. Find your balance, be empathetic. But now I'm going to tell you you have to make them creative. You got to make them memorable. You got to make them unique. So, how do you do that while being empathetic and careful and not telling all their secrets? There's a balance here, but if you're ready to dive into that, let's just get started. So, one, give them unique traits. Memorable characters often have unique traits or quirks that make them stand out from the crowd. Think about the people in your life. What are the things that make them unique, and try to incorporate those traits into your character. Now, it doesn't have to be a bad trait. It can be anything. Maybe you have three friends, and let's see, Mary, Sarah, and I'm gonna forget their names. Mary and Sarah. Let's have two friends. But you have Mary and Sarah, and Mary loves to sing and she dances around and she's always happy. That's Mary. And then Sarah, maybe Sarah is always so stressed. Maybe she's a single mom and she's always stressed, always working. She's got three jobs. And you can tell these things because they're true. They're not hurtful. They're not harmful. But if you tell those things, your reader instantly knows Mary is a happy person. She's probably pretty stress-free. She's always singing and dancing around. And poor Sarah, she's always stressed. And so if at some point, Sarah snaps at you, maybe the reason she did was because, and you can show your empathy then, is because she's so stressed in her own journey. And those are the ways. But you have to be able to tell, what's the difference between Mary and Sarah? You have two different friends that you may talk about in your memoir. You want to make sure that your reader can tell who they are, and then they'll bond with that person by their traits. So give them unique traits, and you don't have to tell all their stories, but enough to let your readers know just enough about them to see how they're going to impact you in your journey. Next, make them relatable. Just like your character traits need to be relatable, and that flat page of words have to come alive into a dimensional character, you need to make them relatable, because your reader will, if Mary is dancing around, a reader who is also, always humming or something, she may relate more with Mary than with Sarah. But if she's also a single mom, she may relate better with Sarah. So it's just like one of those things. If they're different people, find what's different about them and point out that thing. It doesn't have to be a negative thing, just a thing, and make them relatable, something that your reader could probably associate with. Next, create strong motivations. Now, this is really important for your journey, for anything that you talk about with other people, in just across the board in writing. Your characters need to have strong motivations, because something needs to drive them. If something's going to get hard and then harder and tougher until they almost give up, they have to be willing to push through and get to that finish line. So you have to give them a strong motivation. It might be, a desire for revenge or love, for power, whatever it is. Make sure your characters have clear motivations, and they might have a storyline that's going a different way than yours, and you intersect at some point. That's perfectly fine, and actually that will happen quite a bit. So tell enough about their storyline, and you can kind of put their storyline to bed before you move on with yours. But make sure that there are strong motivations, because when you give them the conflicts, which is our next thing, they have to have the motivation to keep going when it gets tough, because it's going to get tough. And if it doesn't get tough, do you really need to tell the story? There needs to be a story there. So number 4, give them conflicts. The conflict is, like I said before, it's not necessarily a fight between two people. It is anything that is an obstacle. It's something that you or their characters need to get through before they can get to the next phase of their life, of their story, of their journey. Make them dynamic. Now, by that I mean, if you have a friend named Bill, and Bill is a 40-year-old husband who works in an ad agency, and he drives a Volvo, and he's this and he's that, you've got Bill right here. And Bill is always Bill, but what happens if, 10 years down your story, if Bill is still in the same story, you know, surely Bill changed in the last 10 years, right? So you have to make them dynamic. So as your life changes, so does theirs. Um, Dynamic is just absolutely must if you're going to be believable. You can even highlight very quickly, the next time I saw Bill, he was in a Maserati. I don't even know if they still make those, but he was wearing Italian suits and leather boots or whatever. Show that somehow over the course of the time that Bill changed. So let them be dynamic, let them grow in their lives and their journeys as they interact and intersect with yours. The next thing, use descriptive language. Now, we've talked about this before, but it's so important to be descriptive. Use all the 5 senses as you describe. Use the sensory, the dialogue, the metaphors. Show your readers that these characters are real people. Let them be real. Next thing, show their flaws. And again, this is one of those things where we're balancing, you need to be able to show the characters' flaws. So the other people in your life show their flaws, and they need to be relatable. They need to be human. You can't make them all into these saints that, that just catapulted you up to your stardom or whatever. They have to have had their own struggles. Otherwise, they just aren't going to be believable. It's going to be like, just a fairy tale, happily ever after book. And that's not real. And again, if that's the real story, then is there a story? Again, use humor. Sometimes it's a way to break things up and to take, the tension out of it. And sometimes it's just good to laugh. Humor for the sake of humor is wonderful as well. Next topic, give them backstories. It doesn't have to be, they don't need to know everything about Bill or Mary or Sarah. They need to know more about you, but at least we need to give them some backstories. So, in just that brief little bit of time, we know that Sarah is a single mom and she's working 3 jobs, and Mary likes to sing and dance. But what's Mary's backstory? Maybe she's married, maybe she's a housewife, maybe she's having an affair with Bill. I mean, we don't know. But whatever the backstory, now you may not want to put that in there, because if that's not public knowledge, then you definitely don't want to be a tell-all. Or you might, but I'm not recommending that. But do give backstories to your characters, because your reader wants to know, not just you, but they want to know them. They want to know and make up their own mind. is Bill a jerk? Is Bill the bad guy? Or is Mary the bad guy? She's so happy. She's always singing and dancing. There's something wrong with Mary. Why is she's the bad guy, isn't she? And your reader is going to want to go on that journey with you. So as you do this, the final thing is just make them unique. We've talked about that a little bit. You have to keep something about them that makes them worth making it into your story, into your memoir, into your journey. So find something that makes them unique, makes them stand out from all of the other characters, and give them a distinct personality, the voices, the things, the way that they talk, different things like that. So creating characters is all about giving the unique traits, making them relatable, giving them strong motivations, and making sure that there's conflict in there somewhere so that it's interesting enough to keep reading. Uh, Once you do that, you're gonna be well on your way to a great memoir. So, as I say, get out there, have fun, and let your creativity soar.